Welcome to the Child Welfare Information Technology Systems Managers and Staff webinar series brought to you on behalf of the Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families, Children's Bureau, and presented by ICF International. Today's discussion is entitled Considerations and Challenges for County-Administered States in Discussing CCWIS. I'm Elizabeth Mertinko. I'm your host and your moderator for today's webinar. Attendees are encouraged to participate in our webinar with questions and comments. All of the participant lines are muted now, but we'll open them at various times throughout the discussion for questions and conversation. You also can submit questions at any time using the Gotowebinar Chat feature, and those will be addressed during the discussion or again at the end. We also understand that some listeners have very specific questions about how CCWIS will operate and about certain topics in the context of CCWIS. In these cases, we encourage people to either send questions like that to ccwis.questions@acf.hhs.gov or to just chat informally with their federal analysts. So now let's meet today's participants. We have joining us two gentlemen from Virginia. First, Alex Camberis, the Assistant Director, Division of Family Services, Virginia Department of Social Services, and Robert Hobbleman, Chief Information Officer, Virginia Department of Social Services. From New York, we have Jonathan Birtwistle, Information Technology Manager, New York Office of Child and Family Services. And finally, from Colorado, Mary Alice Mahaffey, Associate Director of Operations, Colorado Department of Human Services, Division of Child Welfare. So for today's agenda, we've asked our speakers to think about 4 prepared questions. We'll go through each question in turn, and at the conclusion of our speaker comments on each question, we'll open the phone for your questions and your comments and additional discussion. We'll then open the discussion for Q&A and discussion. We'll open the phone lines at the conclusion of the prepared questions. If at any time you have a question, please press star 1 so that the operator can unmute your line. And you'll need to record your first name and press star 1 if you have a question or comment. And so now we're going to get right into the content. So our first question for our panelists: are there specific issues related to county partnerships that you are addressing in your own CCWIS deliberations? And I'd like to start with the gentleman from Virginia.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Alex Camberis, and with me
this is Robert Hoffman.
So to give you a little background where we are, we currently have a PAPD to pursue a CCWIS project, and we're currently working with a vendor to collect requirements and conduct all the planning activities that are necessary. One of the key things that we took into account when we were starting down this road is that we have 120 municipalities in Virginia, each with their own local Department of Social Services. Like many of you on the phone from county-based states, this brings different issues with it than state-run systems. So one of the key factors we considered was to include the local Departments of Social Service right from the start. We've included them on our steering committee, on our RFP review panels, and we've actually hired temporarily one local SME who also manages 12 to 15 other SMEs from around the state to be a type of advisor to us as we collect the requirements. We're very well aware that here in the state office in Richmond, we don't have all the answers, and so the more we can include our local partners, the better. And with these local partnerships come 120 different budget systems and local government requirements that we have to take into consideration for CCWIS. So we anticipate a lot of interfaces with a lot of different systems out there, and how we manage that is one of our major risk factors and challenges. I don't know, Robert, if you want to add anything.
Yes, so the other additional thing is Virginia has a outsourced IT infrastructure. So the Commonwealth actually has given that to, not given it, but procured through Northrop Grumman a infrastructure outsourcing scenario, which means we have to go to a different state agency to even obtain equipment, connectivity to the respective localities, and 28 of the localities actually are considered shared support localities where they have the IT hardware, software accountability, including network pieces. So the complexity just continues to grow when we talk about these 120 localities as opposed to just a single state environment.
Okay, fantastic. John from New York.
Yes, good afternoon, or good morning to some people. The interest in listening to the people there from Virginia, I felt like just saying ditto and going on from there. So much of the same issues and problems that we have. I actually work for the Office of Information Technology Services, but we worked very closely with OCFS, which is the Children and Family Services. So we have 62 counties and one tribal entity within New York, and probably the big thing that we're trying to address with our county partnerships is the variety of user needs. And I think the prime example is always we have New York City as the primary jurisdiction that we have to deal with, but we have a variety of other jurisdictions where some of the rural Adirondack State Park entities that are much smaller, and the needs therefore are much smaller. So we do have an application that has many local options to support our entities. We are state-mandated county-run. The counties manage all of the casework out there, and they are county workers, and they engage with a lot of other voluntary agencies. I think about 250 different voluntary agencies. So we do have interesting issues as we implement data management policies and procedures across the entire spectrum there. So some of the things that we're really looking at from our deliberations at the moment is specifically county data and reporting requirements. Can data analytics be incorporated at all levels of management and supervision? Determining the existence of ancillary systems that are out there that could cause us, harm from a duplicate data point of view. And what we will do with those from a point of view of data exchange when we find and react to them. Other local concerns and suggestions are out there as we consider our data quality plans. And those discussions are probably one of the prime things that we've got to address is how we deal with that data quality. So,
excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
And Mary Alice from Colorado.
This is Mary Alice Mahaffey from Colorado. Colorado has launched a 5-module agile development for a new system, an upgrade of the current system that's going on right now. We're actually following Pete Howe and Lori Parton's advice and ACF's advice that they said to build the system that we want. Colorado is already SACWIS compliant. We're looking at the CCWIS requirements as part of building the new system, but we're actually meeting every week with our users of our system, determining what system they want and seeing how their desires in a new system fit within the CCWIS compliance and rules. And we're combining our Division of Child Welfare with our Division of Youth Corrections is under Division of Child Welfare. It's under Office of Children, Youth, and Families. So we are building our crossover youth and our juvenile youth into the same system versus currently the system that we have doesn't really accommodate them. So part of what we're doing is looking into planning and building that relationship so that we can better handle crossover youth and track our youth in our Division of Child Welfare system through the life of how it impacts them. I would say the number one thing that we're trying to address is quality planning and trying to involve all users in the system as we build it and looking at the CCWIS rules to say what does we're already SACWIS compliant have to do to do that extra step or extra mile to become CCWIS compliant to keep the feds as our partner, because that's what we want. And overall, as a state, we've pulled in our state staff along with our county users that we meet every week. We pull executive management in every 2 weeks. And then we have an overall big meeting with our vendors as we're building this once a month to determine where we're at. For quality, how do we improve quality when we have 64 counties, small, medium, large, with different needs. We have those users at the table designing the system they want, saying, what is it that we need in a system that will meet all users so that we're not duplicating our work and meeting the intent of CCWIS, and also the intent of just being more efficient and effective in a system. We don't have control of the system at Colorado. In 2008, it was handed over to the governor's IT office. So every week we meet with the OIT administrators who are also part of our Trails modernization team that meets every day with the vendors as part of an agile development. So they meet every morning for 15 minutes to see where the project's at. And that's kind of how we've addressed it, is try to build the system that we want while taking into considerations the CCWIS rules.
Fantastic. Thank you. So I'm going to pause for a moment and give our audience members a chance to queue up if they've got comments. I think I would put the same question out to our audience. If there are specific issues related to county partnerships that you're addressing currently in your deliberations, we'd love to hear about them. So, Jennifer, can you go ahead and let our audience members know how they can line up for questions or comments?
Absolutely. Thank you. We will now begin the first question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1, unmute your phone, and record your name clearly. Your name is required to introduce your question. If you need to withdraw your question, press *2. Again, to ask a question, please press *1. It will take a few moments for questions to come through. Please stand by.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. And I'd also like to remind our audience that you can also submit questions or comments through the Gotowebinar Chat feature. There is a dialog box with a small orange and white arrow, probably in the top right of your screen. If you click on that, it opens a dialog box, and then there is a chat window, usually down near the bottom. Open that up and submit your question or comment that way if you would prefer, or *1 to line up on the phone.
We do have our first question, if you would like to have it now.
Yes, please. Thank you, Jennifer.
The first question comes from Jennifer Brown. Your line is open now.
Hi, this is Jennifer Brown from the state of Vermont, and actually I was looking for the contact information from the last speaker. I'm very interested to know more about the Agile implementation. We are currently in our PAPD planning phase, but I'm very interested to hear about the Agile implementation processes and to know more about your process and to maybe adapt some more of your successes. So I'm just interested in getting your contact information so I can take that offline.
Can she hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. It's Mary Alice, MaryAlice .Mahaffey, which is MEHA, F as in Frank, EY, at state.colorado.us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mary Alice.
Thank you.
Jennifer, do we have any other callers on the line?
We currently have no further questions in the queue.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move us on to our second question, but again, if you have any challenges that you would like to share or specific issues or questions on our first question, please go ahead and press *1 to queue up. We'll pause again after the second question, or you can use the Gotowebinar Chat feature to submit your question that way. The second question, are there any aspects of CCWIS that you've discussed with county partners or that they have contacted you about? And just to change up the order a little bit, John, can you start us off from New York?
Surely. One of the good things about these conversations, as the last caller said, I need information, and that's one of the things that we want to do because we're a little bit earlier in our process than perhaps the other two presenters. During the proposals for the changes in regulations, we reached out to our county administrators and some voluntary agencies, also county and agency associations to get responses to the proposed CCWIS regulations. So we participated with them to try and influence what was being discussed. We've had and continue to have standing governance committees, of which obviously CCWIS is a regular update for our discussions, and we will continue to do that. The plan is to engage with the counties and with the agencies to assess the process of moving forward with SACWIS. And so we're at the situation of being ready to submit a planning APD to engage with a vendor that we've had discussions with to start that process. We have continued the communications backwards and forwards since the initial proposals for the regulations came out. So at the moment, the counties have not come back to us because we have indicated that we're moving forward in this manner, and so we haven't had that communication approach from our partners. We do anticipate reaching out, as I say, to our counties, having regional forums, discussions, and a variety of things as we come up with the solutions for CCWIS.
Fantastic. Thank you. Mary Alice, do you want to go next?
Sure. So to discuss with our county partners, this started all the way. This is not an easy question because even before CCWIS existed, we talked about updating our system. So we got, in 2014, we got an independent review of our system of what would be needed to bring the system to what system we wanted based on the risk that we wanted to assess. And with that, when we determined that the best thing to do would be modernize and keep the existing database, but change our our language or our system to upgrade it to .NET versus Power Builder. And we went into that. We went into an RFP, and then we decided we didn't want to just do .NET. Let's throw it out there and open it up to all systems available and see what kind of responses we got based on the funding that we got approved for. Because in this process, we had to determine a request. Probably took us 2 years of looking at, once we got the 2014 study back on our system, to get state approval for funding, and then we had to go and get federal approval for funding. In the middle of all of this is when the very first CCWIS rules came out, and which that's when we were, ACF said, build the system you want, and then we'll address CCWIS later, because they were still working on the guidelines of the CCWIS. We have been SACWIS compliant since 2002, 2003, so we did not want to lose the feds as a partner. But what I said to the county partners in multiple meetings is, this is, whatever you do, this is the time you give it your all. This is the time you plan, you make yourself available, you give your input, because whatever happens in the design of this system is what you're going to live with for 20 years. So it is important to come to the table now and not come to the table in 2 or 3 years and say, but I want the system to do this and it doesn't do this. So I made it, we sent out information memos. I think communication is probably, and planning is probably one of the key factors of getting input from the counties. And it also has to do with what is your level of funding and what can you do now versus what can we plan for in the future that we don't have funding for now, but we can open that door to do down the road. So we have been, for the last year, meeting with our county partners not only once a month as CTUG users, but we formed a Trails Modernization that meets every 3 weeks. And then the CTUG group, once we picked vendors and we've gone into various modules, have been meeting once a week for 8 hours. All day long they sit and they talk about design systems of what they want in the system, even before we even meet with the vendors. And we talk about what we want in a system, your state partners, your state rules. The state, Colorado Child Welfare, has been looking at all of its Volume 7 and state rules, and we have been scrubbing them and rewriting them to meet what we believe is best practice, to clarify what quality that we need. And in all of this, I think the number one questions that the counties keep coming back to is what resources are we going to need to support CCWIS and ongoing data quality review? What kind of what time frame are we looking at that we're going to go CCWIS versus the building a system? And do we have funding? Do we have the funding and the support available to support this system? And those are common questions, I think, as we've been planning this out and trying to address. But I would say the number one thing, along with planning where are you going in the future with your build and where are we going with what system that we want, is addressing effective and reliable development on the county's concerns of, do they have the resources and do they have the funding to participate and help be a player in the system that they want as end users. So we have tried to put out information memos. We have a Trails Modernization website that gets updated every week. We go to all of our allocation meetings. We go to our PAC and sub-PAC rules meetings. We go to our finance meetings and our fiscal officers groups, and we give out the same information to everyone so that everybody's on the same page, so that all players are involved. And I think that's been the biggest concern that they've had is, where are they in this process, and are they players or are they going to be left out? And we've tried to keep them engaged so that they can honestly say this is their system.
Fantastic. Thank you. And can we go back to Virginia?
Absolutely. This is Alex. I will say that I want to brag for a second. We put a lot of time and energy up front, like Colorado just mentioned, that we're going to live with whatever we do for 20 years. So we really tried to engage our local partners here. And we did that by doing 35 joint application design sessions around the state involving 77 of our 120 localities. It took a lot of time and effort, but we really think it'll pay off in the end. And included in that were design sessions with foster youth and foster parents because we want to create a customer portal, for lack of a better word, for them so they can access the system and see what they're allowed to see as part of this. So we looked big, and like Colorado just mentioned, we wanted to design a system that met our needs and then map it to CCWIS. We understand that we are not going to go forward without CCWIS because we frankly need the funding, and we'll comply with all those rules. But we, at the same time, wanted to design a system that met our needs. And as a result, two things quickly emerged that we could do now, irregardless of what we do with CCWIS. And I think one of the biggest lessons learned we took from this process were that we can look at other things. The first was a mobile solution, a mobile app that works with our legacy system. And for those of you who don't know Virginia's system, we bought our product, our current system, which is not SACWIS compliant, from another state in the early 90s, which was old by even then, and we still have it. So I'm sure many other states have gone through similar processes, but our as-is is so far from our to-be system that it's almost laughable. But the mobile solution is something that we can do. So we are currently working on a RFP as we speak to engage a vendor to come in and do that. That is a result from these JAD sessions from the community, because they kept saying in all 35 of those sessions that if they had the ability to do some of their work in the field or in the downtime at court or sitting in their car waiting for an appointment, they would appreciate it. And so we committed to that. We got the funds from our General Assembly, and we're moving forward with that in fiscal year 18, which starts July 1. Second thing that we took out of this that has nothing really to do with CCWIS but came out of all these discussions is the transcription service. We understand that other states have some transcription services where field workers can call in and have them transcribed, emailed back to them. We did a pilot with one vendor last month, and I practically have death threats because we've taken away the service after 30 free days. And so we are committed to trying to get the funds and to roll that out again in fiscal year 18. And I will mention one other thing, and that is back to the question 2 here about what the locals have brought to us, what the county partners have brought to us, and that is when we do this, do it right, of course, but also look at our guidance and our policy. A lot of our policy was written with the limitations of our current system in mind. I'm sure many of you on the phone have encountered similar things. In fact, even some of the vocabulary we use in the state for example, investigations and referrals and things like that came out of the system, which we bought from another state. So they weren't Virginia-centric terms. We've inherited them, and our guidance was updated as a result. So we have made decisions over the year on how we do our practice based on what we can document. And local perspective on that is, one, that's crazy, but two, as we design this new system, look at the business process review. And that is almost taking more of our time in this planning phase than the actual design of the system. It's how do we do the business process review. And we can't do that without our local partners, and so we engage them to create workflows that we'll use as the basis for both requirements and also future trainings. I don't know, Robert, do you want to add anything?
No, the only other item was the local input. Alex referenced the JAD sessions. I also know that we collected survey results, and Alex remembers probably the number off the top of his head.
Close to 600.
Close to 600 of them responded to that. So we try to use every possible means to obtain locality input because that's ultimately who we're doing this work for.
So as a frame of reference, 600 is roughly between around, 30% of all our workforce, 30 to 35% of our frontline workforce. So we thought that was an excellent survey response with what their priorities were. And their priorities match very closely with what we learned in the JAD sessions, which is mobility and electronic documentation. The ability to not be in their office to do some of their work since they're not in their office anyways.
Great, thank you. So again, I'd like to pause, and Jennifer, could you let our audience know how they can queue up for questions on the phone?
Yes, thank you. As a reminder, if you would like to ask a question over the phone, please press *1 and record your name clearly. Please stand by.
And while we're waiting for people to line up, we do have one question that has come in via the chat box. It's for all of our state speakers. Have any of you looked at the required exchange between the county systems and the core state CCWIS system? And if so, what are the issues that you're finding?
From a New York perspective, this is John Burwessel again. We don't anticipate developing a bidirectional feed there. The system of record is the connections application, which is the state system. All of the counties utilize that for the core child welfare casework.
And I'd say in Virginia, we all use the same case management system. Where we differ in the counties is our financial system. And I know of some county-based states that have various case management systems, but for us it's the financial. We have one product that's in roughly 108 of our counties, and then a smattering of other products in the remaining 12. But it's a homegrown system that is built by two guys in their basement, and I'm not joking. It is built by two guys in their basement, two brothers. And so we are very nervous about how much longer that will last, and so as we design requirements for our new system, that's something we need to factor in, is the flexibility to interact with local reporting needs for treasurers and things like that, and also our reporting needs to send data upwards to the Fed.
Okay.
This is Mary Alice. For Colorado, being that we're SACWIS compliant, our systems currently are automated and talk to each other. However, just like the other gentleman said, our biggest issue that we've gotten feedback on is our fiscal system in, we call it Trails, in our case management system, has much to be desired. And then on the Division of Youth Corrections that we're adding into our system, they're in a whole other separate system. So we're really looking close to scrapping the fiscal piece of module of our current system and getting feedback to rebuild it to make it more user-friendly and reliable, or feeds more directly into our county fiscal management system that feeds into our state core system that does our reporting to the feds. So we're looking to just improve it and upgrade it to better meet our needs.
Great, thank you all. Jennifer, do we have anyone on the line?
There are currently no questions in the queue.
Okay, and I do have one other question that's come in, which is, do any of your states have web-based applications?
Colorado is building a web-based right now.
Okay.
We do not in Virginia.
New York does not have one, no.
Okay, so not right now would be the answer. I do have another question that's come in, and this is specifically for Virginia. What was the format of your survey to users on their priorities? Was it a blank slate, or did you provide users with a list of options?
It was a survey with a list of options that had come up from contact with SMEs, but then the last question was an open field so that people could enter whatever they wanted.
Okay, fantastic. And also for Virginia, we need some questions for New York and Colorado so you guys don't feel left out. For Virginia, can you explain how you're addressing confidentiality and system security with mobility?
Confidentiality, and I missed the second part of that?
Confidentiality and system security.
So security is interesting. We had 70-something functional requirements and 150 security requirements when all was said and done. In some ways, we are at the forefront of Virginia's cloud-based computing here. There aren't other state agencies that have done a mobile device with PII to the extent that we are. It has not been approved yet. I'm hoping it is by our state IT agency, because I think we put all the controls in place that meet the requirements in this day and age of cloud-based security. Our IT agency came up with a list of 150-something criteria that I'd be happy to share with anyone for any state executive agency in Virginia to engage in a cloud-based contract. So security has been at the forefront of this. It was a hard sell, to be very honest, to even get to this point to do this, but we've managed to convince people just from the sheer need from the field. The other one, confidentiality, I think we'll have multi-factor authentication in place to really limit who has access. We are going to be purchasing the devices so that they're controlled by us, even in this county-based system. The details need to be worked out and how we handle that, but we already are thinking about how we're going to image the devices or manage the devices with a mobile device management piece of software so that we can control what the end user has. I'll be honest and say we don't have all the things worked out because we don't have a vendor picked yet, and each vendor will come to us with their own ideas about how to handle this. But it is certainly something we're very keen on. And if there's interest on the phone for other states that have done this, I know Arizona just entered into a contract with a vendor. They're ahead of us a little bit. I'm not sure of any other states, but if that person who asked that question has more interest in this topic, they can reach out to Arizona, who has been helpful to us too.
Fantastic. Hey, I feel like anything around mobile applications always generates a lot of interest, so that's definitely a topic I think that's on everyone's mind. Jennifer, do we have anyone on the phone?
We do not.
Okay, I have another question that has come in online. Are any of you developing your CCWIS in-house, meaning without a vendor? If so, what have you requested from your executive leadership regarding funding and resources? If you all are working with vendors, are you using any of your internal IT staff in the development process? So that's sort of a multi-part question.
So I'll just because I'm on a roll here, this is Alex from Virginia. I'll just say quickly that we're using in-house IT development on the back end. We have a very robust IT team, and we also have a division of enterprise systems that will be involved as well. But
yes,
Robert.
So Virginia has a rather federated model for its IT development efforts. One IT division, multiple IT units within business areas. So standardized on a lot of the back-end products, databases, middle tier, things like that. The development is handled for this particular application internally, I mean the current application, and we envision to actually work with this prospective vendor to do interfaces of getting the data across from the mobile device into the legacy system as we know it today.
This is Colorado. My intent is to get a vendor to work on the CCWIS requirements, but they will have to work with the Trails Modernization Team and our OIT to be able to get the information needed to fill the CCWIS report and requirements out to get certification.
Okay.
And this is New York. Our development team is predominantly supplemental support staff, contracted resources, with a small team of specialists in-house. We continue to do system maintenance and system enhancements with that team. If we go ahead to look at a major systems development from a CCWIS point of view, if that comes out as the need, I envisage that we would look to do a user systems integrator to support that effort.
Fantastic. Thank you all. And follow-on question for Virginia. How large is your IT team to develop a CCWIS in-house?
Can you repeat that, please?
I think you had referred to your IT team as being rather large, and so someone is asking how large is your team to be able to develop a CCWIS in-house?
So, and just to clarify, we're not going to develop the CCWIS in-house. If I conveyed that, I apologize. But Robert is here. He supervises all his team. He can.
Yeah. So the Division of Information Systems is about 100 people, which is a combination of state classified people as well as contract staff. The rest of the organization probably has an additional 80-some-odd IT people dealing with enterprise systems, finance systems, licensing areas, things like that. For the existing application, though, the number of people is only about 8 between business analysts and developers. We use, unfortunately, Power Builder as its development tool today, and we have a shared database team. We use Oracle on the back end to support that. So probably for the existing system, we're talking only about 10 people in total, give or take.
All right. And Jennifer, do we have anyone else on the line?
We do not at this time.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on then to our third question. Are there any areas of SACWIS compliance that you found problematic or challenging that you think might be easier to address with the CCWIS? And Mary Alice, I've had you sort of answering last, so I'm going to put you up first for this question.
So being that we are SACWIS compliant, I think the biggest question that we've had that we want to work on is doing report consistency. Instead of pulling out the various federal reports that we need, being able to put the systems in place to better handle that, where it doesn't take as many man-hours or resources to be more efficient. And also to look at the time and the prep that it takes when we have legislative changes to make in our system, because our system is so antiquated, just like Virginia, we're power builders. So it takes a lot to build a change in the system. Instead of piecemealing it together, we're hoping that the new system will have the updated language and the ability to more maneuver manageability and increase our operation and maintenance efforts versus being so costly. Just trying to address county unique needs with 64 counties while still maintaining a standard level of practice or standard reporting. Those would be, and the other thing is just quality assurance. With 64 counties doing it 64 different ways, working on training and system controls to produce quality assurance, and what the cost of that will be under CCWIS for having an audit every 2 years. Those are the issues that we are trying to address and challenges that we're facing.
Fantastic. Thank you. Robert and Alex from Virginia.
One of the main reasons we were not SACWIS compliant and never pursued it was the financial aspect of the SACWIS rules. We just have a system here in Virginia, as I've mentioned in the other answers to the other questions, of our varied ways of handling financials and homegrown products and things like that in Virginia. So we're hoping that with a newer system that might be more doable with data interfaces, rather than with the SACWIS rule of everything be all-inclusive, be able to use modules here and have it be the reporting tool, but behind the scenes interface with all the different systems. That's also true for many things like education, state education data, and others that in the past were hard to do, and we didn't do it in Virginia because of our local school boards and just the setup of having 120 different data exchanges. So we're trying to look at how to do that easier. And finally, just funding. We would not be able to do a big bang development here and get who knows how many millions of dollars to do a new SACWIS system. However, with CCWIS and the ability to do some modular development, I would not say we are going to be agile developers, but we will certainly be looking at agile procurement and splitting our whole project up over several different modules, starting with the mobility module I mentioned earlier in the call, followed up by case management, provider management, some of the other ones that we're interested in doing. So I think in that sense, the newer CCWIS regulations are easier for that approach to this problem.
Fantastic. And New York, John.
Yes, I think I'm in agreement with the prior two organizations. The number one issue has always been a single state monolithic system that didn't allow for the communications and the bidirectional feeds that we'd like to see from a variety of different areas. So one of the things that we anticipate from a SACWIS point of view would be to improve that communication method and take out the requirement that the SACWIS system has to be the primary source of all input. And that continues to be the issue that we've seen all the way through.
Okay. So at this point, again, I'm going to pause after this question. And Jennifer, can you let us know, do we have anyone on the line, or can you remind us how to line up for questions?
Absolutely. We currently have no callers in the queue. If you would like to ask a question over the phone, please press *1 and record your name clearly. Thank you.
Okay. And I think I'm going to go ahead and move to the next question while we are waiting for people to line up. So our final question for today that we had prepared in advance are all of, and I think we've touched on some of this just a little bit, but are the counties all active users of your child welfare IT systems? Are there any areas where you will have to develop or enlarge a data exchange? And Virginia, I'm going to have you start us off on this.
Yes, all of our counties are active users of the system. And other than the financial component that we just referenced, we don't believe that we will have to build additional interfaces, but our mobility solution most certainly will be obviously require an interface between the mobile solution and our existing legacy application.
Okay. New York, John.
Yes, just to give you some idea, we have 62 counties and one single tribal entity. New York City's 5 counties roll into one, so we actually have 59 jurisdictions, I think it is, and all are systems users of the Connections application. There are approximately 250 voluntary agencies that, again, all provide input to the SACWIS application. Those voluntary agencies provide foster care, adoption, and preventive services under the guidance from the county agencies. New York does have a single service authorization and payment system, and it's universally used by the counties, but that is not rolled into the Connections application. We do have some one-way data exchanges to counties of an operational data store, and all counties have access to predefined and ad hoc reporting capabilities. Just do want to say, give you some idea of the size of the system. We talked about 59 jurisdictions. There are approximately 25,000 registered users, 15,000 identifiable users every week, 5,000 concurrent users on any given day. They create somewhere close to 1 million progress notes every month, peaking over 1 million, and 11,000 service plans are submitted each month. 14,000 CPS investigations each month, and some very large voluntary agencies. 1 or 2 of the agencies have over 1,000 users of the Connections application, so a fairly large organization. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Mary Alice, would you like to finish this up with this question?
Yeah, so Colorado, through the 2014 review of our system, we have 88 different interfaces. A lot of those are Excel spreadsheets where data is pulled out and then communicated in a HIPAA notice where the data is encrypted to share with our various county users or state departments. But overall, we have about 9 major interfaces, and we hope to get it down to 3 as part of our new system. We are already bidirectional in a lot of our interfaces because of being SACWIS compliant. So we continue to go down that road and believe that we will be able to meet the CCWIS requirements since we already have those one direction or bidirectional interfaces built already. We just plan to improve them. We plan to expand our data exchange systems with Department of Education, our judicial system, and we also want to connect, when we're done with this, with NICE for our interstate kids. And also, as we talked about, one of the biggest changes that we're making in our system right now is addressing our crossover youth with our Division of Youth Corrections, building it right in the same system and using that. So those are the main interface type of systems that we're trying to focus on in Colorado.
Thank you. So before we go on to our final Q&A, I just want to take a minute and thank you all very much for your participation in today's discussion. It's thus far, I think it's been a very rich and valuable conversation. So I want to thank all 4 of you for being with us this afternoon and sharing your thoughts on these questions. So at this time, I do want to open up the phone lines for any questions from attendees, but we also would love to hear from other states about some of the issues, the challenges, your own responses to these questions. sort of the unique needs of your county-administered states. So you don't need to have a question, but if you just have an issue you'd like to discuss with the group or some thoughts you'd like to share, please feel free to queue up or to send a comment via the chat box. Jennifer, do we have anybody who is on the line currently?
Currently, there are no callers on the line. As a reminder, if you would like to ask a question or make a statement, please press star 1 and record your name. Please stand by.
Okay, fantastic. So for our speakers, I do have a few other questions. First, are any of you considering going forward claiming 4E funding as a non-CCWIS?
No.
Okay, so that sounded like it was
from
all...
New York point of view, it's still early in the process, so I can't say one way or the other.
Okay. So that was 2 no's and 1 too early in the process. And then second question, and this is specifically for Colorado. It's a little off topic, but why are you considering using NICE? Can you talk to us a little bit more about that thinking?
To reduce the time it takes for the supporting documentation and court papers to get from one state to the other. So instead of disrupting a child's life by placing them in a temporary holding pattern or holding placement while we're waiting for a relative or a placement in another state, NICE being connected with that is a bidirectional, and it can take, my understanding is once we connect with them in a bidirectional way, it can take a couple of days, and it can really, I think, better practice than disrupting the child's life. And that's what we're looking into. It's still in the new, like we said, in the talking stages, but that's our intent and hope.
Sure.
And I chime in, Virginia is pursuing it as well. Right now we are a NICE participant using duplicate entry, but our goal and one of our requirements for our new system is to incorporate it so that it reduces the duplicate entry. But like Colorado said, we are a believer in reducing some of the time for interstate placements.
Okay. Jennifer, do we have other questions on the line?
We do not.
Okay. So I'll just pause for 1 more minute just to give folks star 1 if you've got questions, or if anyone needs another minute to type a question into the chat box. But again, I just really want to extend my thanks to all 4 of you for participating today. This is the second time that we have done a webinar in this slightly less formal question and answer format, and what we're hearing from the audience is that it's very helpful to them. But I do realize, too, that it requires some preparation on your part and for you to share some early thinking and particular candor about what's going on in your states, and we really, really appreciate that. So thank you all for taking time out of your schedules to be with us today. Jennifer, I'll check in with you one last time before we sign off and see if we have any other questions or comments from our audience.
There are no questions at this time.
Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up, and thank you to our audience for being so interactive and participating with us today. I think it's been a wonderful conversation, and I hope you all have found it useful.